So welcome back to another backcountry hiking adventure in the foothills of central Alberta, the Rocky Mountains of Canada. Looking forward to a good hike. We're going to be out here for a couple of days. So we brought our tent and our tarp along. A little bit of snow on the ground, which allows us to bring our sled, which is just perfect for a little bit extra cold weather gear that we're going to need here. Temperatures not too cold. It's nice and sunny today. Expected to drop just below freezing overnight. So we'll make a fire. We brought our shepherd stove along. We've got a video up on the website with a test fire of that. So we're going to give it a true test here in the Rocky Mountains overnight. So having a sled is kind of nice, but it's a catch-22 when you're going downhill. It's awesome because it just kind of goes. You just got to hold it back. So certainly a lot better than having all that stuff on your back. But unfortunately, when you're going uphill, it's kind of the reverse of that. You're pulling all the weight. But again, it's kind of nice not having it on your back. If I was carrying 80 pounds, honestly, we wouldn't be getting very far. So the sled does allow us, as I mentioned before, to bring some extra gear and do some different things as far as shelters. Bring that extra gear that's going to keep us warm on what's probably going to be a below freezing night here tonight. So, well, we're at the bottom of the hill, so I guess I got to pull from here. Well, as I mentioned, we're late in November, but almost a little bit too early for this. Unfortunately, this hiking area is a couple hours from home, and so you never know what the conditions are going to be like until you get here. As you can see on this part of this road that we're hiking along here, there's not a lot of snow. We're going to have enough to get the sled through here, but let's hope it gets a little bit better from here as we get further into the mountains. I don't know if you can just see at the top of the frame there's some mountain peaks, and that's where we're going. That's another 8-10 kilometers. We did this hike in the summertime, and we took a close-up look at those, but unfortunately we ran out of daylight and had to turn around. So today we're going to make our base camp there, and then we're going to hike on to some more fantastic views, some amazing ridges, once again, that very few people get a chance to see. Certainly not at this time of year anyway. So this is the view facing the other direction, and as you can see, a little bit more snow on the trail, which is just going to be perfect. Wind's picked up a little bit, but still not that cold. But you can see the ridges and peaks in the distance there, and that's where we're going. That's where we're hoping to make our base camp tonight. Darker clouds on the horizon. Hopefully that won't affect us too much. We'll see what happens here tonight, and we'll keep going. So I've just come across remnants of a carcass here on the trail. Doesn't look like it's been here all that long. See some drag marks around. There's just a little bit of it left. There's an ear section there, and we got a lower jawbone over here. I'm guessing that's looks like an elk to me, but seeing as there's really nothing else around here, this obviously isn't where this kill happened. I don't know if it was wild animals originally took this animal down, or a hunter, and this is just the predators going to town on the remains of the carcass. But anyway, I don't even see any tracks around here really, so whatever it was that dragged that here, maybe some small footprints there, probably coyote. Doesn't look like bear. Otherwise we'd have bigger tracks here. So not really too concerned, but I just thought I'd show you that we are out in the wild, and that's why we take precautions. Got our shotgun and bear spray, and should be all right. All right, so we're just a couple hundred yards up from the remnants of that carcass that I showed you, and right after I noticed that carcass in the trail, well, those parts on the trail, I came across the carcass stuffed under a tree there. So honestly, I didn't even want to fire up the video at that point, because some animal stuffed that underneath there. And I know that's what bears like to do, and they are very protective of their food supply and their kills. So we did not want to wait around to even film that or get the shotgun out. I got it on the sled there, it's in the case, but best course of action is to vacate the area. So we did that, and get another few hundred yards here, and we're far enough out that I think I'm going to pull the shotgun out of the case. It is loaded and ready to go, but I think we want it a little bit handier than that. I do have the bear spray on my hip, so we're not completely without anything handy, but again, the way that carcass was stuffed under that tree there, I thought it best that we just move on, so that's what we did. Okay, so I've been hiking this last hour in the dark. It's about 6:30, and honestly, I'm exhausted. There's way more uphill than I remember, but last time I was here, I wasn't carrying or dragging a sled along. So, note to self for next time: pack less. Anyway, so we made it to where I wanted to camp for the night here. Could have stopped along the way a couple of times, but I thought, no, we'll just carry on. I know the trail well, and even though it's dark, I got a headlamp, and I have a pretty good idea where I'm going. So, and conditions were good. It's still maybe a couple of degrees below zero. As you can see, there's a little bit of snow falling, but it's not too windy. So all in all, just another day in the prairies, basically. And the fact that we're about 9 kilometers deep into the bush. And although you can't see it, the stars are pretty amazing out here, because there are no city lights anywhere. We're supposed to actually get a better part of a full moon tonight, so I'm not sure what time that comes up. I didn't check, but might actually be able to come out a little bit later and really see what's going on, other than this headlamp that I've been wearing. All right, so we're going to set up the base camp here for the night, and once I get that set up and all squared away inside, I'll show you what's going on. All right, getting the sled unpacked here, and I just thought I'd show you what we're going to be doing. I don't think I'm going to be able to film the setup of this, but rather than a tent, as I mentioned earlier, I brought a little bit of a different tarp shelter, and we also brought along our tent stove that we made out of galvanized furnace ducting. So hopefully that's going to keep us warm. I think it'll do the trick. It's just a question of whether we'll be able to get enough wood in there to keep it going. I don't know, I might have to set an alarm every hour and stoke it up, but if that's what we got to do, that's what we got to do. we'll see what happens there. Yeah, so brought along a folding chair, which is kind of handy. It's just a bit of a stool, better than sitting on the ground. And there's our stovepipe, obviously. Just some scraps of wood that I brought along. In hindsight, thinking of things that I shouldn't have brought. Well, okay, there's a few things I shouldn't have brought, but whatever. I don't think those will be making the trip back home with us. I thought I could just use them to put my little butane stove on or what have you if I wanted just a little bit of level ground, but at the end of the day, probably not worth the weight, or the weight we're carrying. Yeah, anyway, so we got a couple of tarps. I haven't even cracked those open yet, so I hope they're going to be big enough. And there we got our plywood structure. So essentially what we're going to have, that bundle there, that's 1/2 inch plywood, cut into 4 foot long strips. And those are going to be the ridge pole and some of the end supports. Yeah, and this plywood here, this is 1/4 inch plywood, and I cut it just big enough so it fit into the bottom of the sled. So it's actually 20 by 40 is how big those are. It would have been nice if it was 24 by 48, but we just had to work with the sled that we got. So if you got a bigger sled or smaller sled, maybe just measure it out, and it happened to work out so that those longer pieces, which are 48 inches, because they're a little bit higher, they fit into the sled at 48 inches. So yeah, anyway, this sled here I got at Cabela's, and it wasn't that expensive. And I've got the smaller one, the Jet Sled Junior, I think. This is the second one up. The small one is ideal, and you'll see in one of my other videos I used that one for the bucket stove adventure. It was a little couple-minute video we put together, and that works quite well for a day hike. And truthfully, I'm wishing I would have brought the smaller sled here today and just a conventional tent rather than all this plywood. But I think the plywood's going to be nice once we get it all put together. I gotta screw it together, but it's all pre-drilled and numbered, so it should go together pretty quickly. All right, we'll leave it there for now, and we'll show you what we got when we get it up. All right, it's been about an hour, and we've got the frame for our tarp shelter fully assembled. Basically that's what we're doing. We got plywood on each end, and a kind of a gusset there on the corner for stability, and a ridge pole made out of 4-inch wide by 1/2 inch plywood, and another end cap made out of plywood on that end. For a stove pipe hole, I got that bucket lid there fastened to the side. There's a little bit of an oversized hole in the plywood, so I'm hoping that I'm gonna have about 3 feet of pipe leading up to that hole before we actually get to the plywood, the side of the tent. So I'm hoping that it'll be cooled off enough, and that bucket lid will dissipate a little bit of heat, so that we go through the side of the shelter without any trouble. All right, the only thing that's left now is to just drape the tarp, and we're going to tuck it in the bottom. We got some fairly large rocks and stumps nearby, so we're just gonna, it's a little bit oversized, so we're just gonna weight it down with some rocks, and get our stove set up and our bed set up, and lay down. I am tired. So I got it all tarped up, and I think we're good to go. I'm gonna head inside. I gathered a little bit of firewood. I'm just gonna do a little bit of chopping, see if we can get a fire going. and then have some dinner. It's been a long day. It's about 8:30. Feels later than it is, but I think it's just because we had a pretty good workout this afternoon. So shelter's good to go. We're going to go inside and put a ground sheet down, and I got some foam pads for insulation, and we'll get ready to have a little bit of dinner and then retire for the evening. Well, here we are. It's morning, and we've survived the first night in the tarp shelter. All in all, it was a good night. Kept the stove going. Had to feed it about every hour or so, but never actually went out, so worked out pretty well. Just gonna have a little bit of breakfast here, a little bit of mishmash, tortilla shells, maybe a little bit of hot water with some rice and a cheese stick, and we'll get a little bit of food in us, and then we'll carry on with our hike today. Gonna leave the tarp shelter set up here, and we're gonna come back tonight, so it'll be a little lighter day. Won't have to carry quite so much, but we'll still take a little bit of gear along in case conditions change or for some reason we get stuck. We're just about ready to head out on the trail again, but I thought I'd give you a quick look at what our camp looks like in the daylight. And I'm going to leave everything set up here, leave the sled behind, take the backpack with pretty much most of the food in it. Don't want to leave anything behind here at camp. Left a little bit of gear. I'm sure it'll be just fine here. Doesn't look like anybody's been here in quite a while. So yeah, this is one of the reasons I like this spot. It's kind of protected, and there's a little bit of a creek right beside. I've camped here a couple times before, and I knew that once we got here, there'd be a good spot for us to build the shelter. So that's why we pushed on, even though it was dark last night. All right, we're gonna load up and hit the trail and see where we end up today. Well, there's another shot of some tracks. Again, a cat of some kind. What's interesting about this one is that there's no tracks between that spot there and up on the bank there. So I don't know, that's got to be close to 6 feet that it took a little bit of a leap there without too much trouble, it looks like. So interesting what we find out here in the bush. Well, we've been hiking pretty hard for about an hour now, and we're starting to get up close and personal to the majestic peaks of the Rocky Mountains here in southern Alberta. And well, it's been hard hiking, but so far it's been worth it. We're going to keep going a little further and see if we can't get a little bit closer. I just thought I'd stop and show you a little bit more of why we come up here. Getting some great views of the mountains, fresh air, exercise. It's a perfect day. Well, we made it. The last few kilometers have been uphill all the way, and it's been pretty grueling. But I think you'll see it's been worth the climb. This ridge that I'm standing on right here is called Rye Ridge. And the peaks and mountains in the background there, that is the border between British Columbia and Alberta, also known as the Continental Divide. And from this point, you've got a full 270 degrees all the way from the northwest basically to the southeast. And I know this camera isn't really doing it justice, but you get the idea. If you get a chance, this is definitely worth the hike. Well, I'm just going to turn the camera around a little bit, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the hike to get here. It's so bright I can't even see if I'm in the frame or not, so we'll just kind of wing it. But there's two ways to get to Rye Ridge, and you can come in from the north or you can come in from the south. One way is 15 kilometers to get here. The first 7 or 8, 9 is pretty level either way, and then the balance is a pretty uphill climb. So 15 one way, it's pretty tough to do it in a day. That'd be 30K round trip, and a lot of it uphill. So this is why we did it on an overnight. We walked in the first 9K, set up a base camp, and then we did the other 6 here today, and then it'll be 6 back to camp. But it's going to be 6 downhill. So I think we're going to spend a couple minutes here, have a snack, pack up, and it's been a long hike, but it was worth it. Perfect day to be up here. All right, we'll catch you on the downside. Well, we made it back to camp. It was an excellent day today. The weather was perfect. Had a little bit of dinner. And just going to have a cup of hot chocolate and then get ready to roll out the sleeping bag. So all that's left is to hike out of here tomorrow morning. We're going to pack up camp, and all in all, it's been an excellent couple of days. We'll see what tomorrow brings, and we'll go from there. Well, just a quick view of the mountains we're leaving behind, and I thought I'd give you just a pan of the trail ahead of us. This is where we came in the last hour in the dark on the first night we arrived here. So pretty hard to go wrong following a straight trail like that. Snow conditions were perfect for the sled. So it's been an awesome couple of days, and sad to say it's time to go home. Well, this looks like as good a spot as any to say thanks for watching the video. It's been an excellent couple of days. Glad you came along. For more of these videos, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And of course, your comments are always welcome. Until next time, happy trails and take it easy.